So you want to work for an investment bank, but quickly realize it's easier to sell ice to an Eskimo. Have you ever stopped and wondered what are the real reasons why you can't break in, and how to jump over these hurdles when faced in front of them? What is going on YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about a few reasons why you might struggle to secure an offer at an investment bank, and a few solutions as to how you can increase your chances of securing that all-important spring week internship or grad scheme offer. So without any further ado, let's get straight to it. Alright, so the first one is university. It goes without saying that yes, if you attend an Ivy League uni or a Russell Group uni in the UK, it helps. A lot of investment banks, regardless of the size of the investment bank, the region, they do target students and graduates from top tier universities. And the reason for that is because you know what you're getting typically. And so yes, there are preferences. A lot of investment banks, especially a lot of employees, do look for students and graduates that might have gone to LSE or Oxford or Cambridge or Harvard, whatever it might be. And if you're not at a top tier university, you're at a slight disadvantage, because it means other candidates might get preferential treatment, or their CVs or applications might get looked at ahead of yours. However, if you don't attend a top tier university, an Ivy League uni or a Russell Group uni, it's not the end of the world. It's only one factor that plays a part in whether you get an offer for an interview or not. Alright, so what's the solution to this? It's pretty simple. There's nothing you can do about the university that you go to. Like, that's going to be on your CV, on your cover letter, on your application. You can't change that. However, what you can do is ensure that you kind of smash your degree or whatever you're studying, whichever uni you're at. Make sure you get the best grade as possible, and in addition to this, try and secure some work experience, some relevant experience, whether it's a spring week internship, whatever it is. The more you can, build on your CV regarding relevant work experience, extracurricular activities, voluntary work, all of that, it will help you catch the reader's attention on your CV. So if you're not at top tier university, or you don't have a uni that's got a strong brand on your CV, it's not the end of the world. Focus on improving the other parts of your CV. Next, we've got grades. If you've got poor grades, it's going to be very hard to break into an investment bank, let alone the investment banking division, where they typically want the best of the best grades. Similarly to the sales and trading division, asset management, any of the front office divisions, revenue generating divisions, client facing divisions, they typically accept candidates with top-notch grades. In order for you to kind of break into the front office, or get into a decent role at an investment bank, you're going to need to have an impressive rest of your CV. So you're going to need to have good work experience, good internships, all of that. So if you're in uni, or if you're going to be in uni and you want to break into banking, make sure you get good grades. If you're at uni, get a 2-1 or a 60% or above. Anything lower, it doesn't look too good. You don't need to smash it. You don't need to get 90% plus in every exam, but you want to have reasonable grades, because those get looked at, believe it or not. It all depends on the person that sees your CV. So typically at banks, they get their employees, regardless of whether it's an analyst, associate, VP, whoever it is, to look at your CV. And essentially that individual has the decision of whether they invite you to an interview or not. And so if they look at your grades and they're quite forgiving because your grades aren't that good, you get lucky. But if they look at your grades and they're not forgiving, then you get unlucky. And so the best way to kind of mitigate that risk is to try and get the best grades you can get throughout your degree. So what you want to do is get a 2-1 or a 60% minimum for your degree, and do things that will draw attention away from your grades. So what I mean by this is do good or relevant extracurricular activities, voluntary work. It goes back to experience, all of that stuff. Do things that you can put on your CV that will stand out so much more that they take the attention away from your, poor grades or your below average grades. Next up, we've got hidden biases or hidden biases. So every company is subject to this, and it's basically every single individual, employee, what have you, has had different life experiences. They will naturally have hidden biases that favor some candidates and that don't favor other candidates. And this is completely out of your control, and it's something that you can't do much about. An example would be, let's say I went to interview, and the person that interviewed me went to a given university, and I didn't go to that university. But then the next candidate comes in and they interview with the same person, and they both went to the same university. That interviewer or the employee might have more of a liking to the other candidate because they went to the same uni. Now, hidden biases come in many shapes and forms, and they differ in lots of different ways. But the important thing is that yes, they do exist. Ideally, every candidate will be reviewed in a neutral form, but it's hard to do that because you can't take into consideration every single hidden bias. And as humans, it's very subjective which candidates get picked and which candidates, don't get put put through to the next round, even if they were a better candidate. So the hiring process at most companies can be improved in that sense. But then the question is, how do you improve it? It's a tricky question to answer, and so it's something worth being aware of. What you can do in interviews is try and be conversational, try and be interesting, be yourself, but you want to build a rapport with the individual interviewing you. And so if it ever comes to the stage where you and another candidate are inseparable, the company doesn't know who they want to hire, you want them to hire you based on the potential that they think you're going to have in the job. Basic things can make the difference. So being respectful, asking good questions. It really stands out when a candidate is able to show their knowledge, interest, and desire to learn in a specific role. Naturally, even if me and you don't click, we don't get on, and I can't separate you between another candidate, I'm gonna look at, who seemed the most curious and interested in the role, who had a thirst for knowledge, who wants to develop, who do I think if I put them in a seat will grow and learn and develop in that role. And so those are some things that you can work on to kind of get across in an interview, which will hopefully help you stand out compared to any other candidate. Then we've got poor CVs and cover letters. So there's no point applying to a firm if your CV is terrible and your cover letter is terrible, because that's the first thing that the companies look at. And if you can't do well in those, then you're going to get a rejection. And so you just waste your time applying to these organizations. You get thousands of applicants applying for each role. For example, at Goldman's, you get like 3,000 applicants per one offer, something like that. But truth is, most of those applications, the CVs are very, very poor quality. So your odds, if you construct a good CV and a cover letter, you actually have a good chance of getting an interview at the minimum. And that's because a lot of the applications are applicants with terrible CVs and terrible cover letters. So you don't want to be one of those individuals. Basic things like consistency throughout the CV, structure of your sentences, font sizes, spelling mistakes, grammar, etc., etc. Very small things to fix, easy to fix, but not many people do it because they can't be bothered to print it out and go through it with a red pen, or they can't be bothered to get someone else to look at it. Another thing is most applicants use the same cover letter to apply to different companies. If you're not changing your cover letter for every company you apply to, you're doing something wrong. Now, the reason I say that, parts of it you can keep the same, but your cover letter needs to be tweaked to be specific to each organization. The more specific your cover letter can be, the more likely you are to stand out. Similarly with your CV, you want to tweak it to the role that you're applying to. So if you're applying to a sales role, you want to create a CV where you're displaying examples of how you used your interpersonal skills, relationship building skills, so on and so forth. If you're applying to a trading role, you want to tweak your bullet points where you can to display your attention to detail, how you cope under pressure, any trading or investing that you've done previously. So all these small things play a big part. In terms of resources for your CV and cover letter, if you YouTube Afzal Hussein CV or Afzal Hussein cover letter, you'll find a few videos that I've done that can help you create a strong cover letter or CV. I've done tons of courses on Skillshare, check those out. And then there's CV Doctor, where there's tons of free resources and you can access the CV and cover letter that I used when I applied to Goldman Sachs. Another reason why you're not breaking into banking is because you don't have enough experience and you're not keeping up with the competition. So if you apply to a bank and your CV is empty, it's just highly unlikely you're going to get asked or offered an interview. And the reason for that is your competition is doing a lot more than you are. So if you think about applying to all these banks, other candidates that are applying go to top unis, they've got a spring week, an internship, maybe 1 or 2, 3 or 4. They've got relevant experience, they've done lots of extracurricular activities, they've got lots of voluntary work on the CV. Basically, their CV is full of interesting info that is relevant and interesting to the job that they're applying to. And then when you look at your CV, it's probably blank or empty. And that's no one's fault. It's tough to get all those experiences. They probably started a lot sooner. However, it's one of the key factors that determines someone getting an interview and someone getting rejected at the application stage. Think about it. Why would a company accept someone for an interview who displays not much evidence of proactiveness in the career that they're applying to compared to another candidate who's shown so much proactiveness? If you're in the company's shoes, you're obviously going to choose the candidate who's displayed a proactive nature to go and secure the relevant experiences. So it makes sense. Now, it's not easy to secure all these experiences. You hear a lot of people talking about it, but it's one of the hardest things to do, to secure an internship or a spring week. And so my advice to you would be, obviously keep applying, try and improve your chances, whether it be by improving your CV or cover letter, but do things that are easy as well. Try and secure voluntary work, try and do extracurricular activities, try and take on a leadership position in a society at uni, do things outside of uni. All these things, you need to think about how you can pitch yourself on your CV, because your CV is that one page that's going to sell you to any employer that you're applying to. And so if you can't get a spring week, don't worry about it, try and get something else. Always ask yourself, how can I build on my CV and improve it? Another reason why students and graduates are not breaking into banking or really struggling is because they take the wrong approach to completing their applications. A lot of students, they're just applying just for the sake of it, or they're applying just because everyone else is doing it. That honestly is a waste of your time, and it's a waste of the bank's time. Don't apply to any company if you're not going to take your time with the application. You're going to spend some time, you're going to eventually waste your time if you're not taking care with your CV, your cover letter, the questions, the motivational questions that you get asked. And so it's important to have a strategy when applying to these firms. So what I would suggest is create an Excel spreadsheet or Notion file, whatever it is, list all the firms that you want to apply to, have their application deadline dates in the file, and work your way through applying to each of those. It's going to take a lot of time, and honestly, a strong application doesn't happen overnight. You need to spend a lot of time and effort. But the beauty of this is the more applications you do, the better your answers and your CV and your cover letter get. So spend some time, carve some time out, dedicate some time to applications, work with your friends, a group of individuals who are on applying to these organizations, who are on the same journey as you, who share the same interests as you, and just work through all the applications bit by bit. Don't just apply anywhere and everywhere. Try and find out what's interesting to you. There's no point just applying to 100 specific divisions in an investment bank if you're not going to get any offers. Be strategic. You want to increase your chances of securing a offer, whatever that offer is. So then you have like a safety net, something that you can leverage later on. So you might apply to some back office areas, you might apply to some front office. Main priority should be to secure something, and then you can think about, different options and being a bit more ambitious. But if you're one of the lucky people who does like 3 or 4 applications and then secures offers, then that's good for you. Make sure you go and help someone else out, help other people with their applications, so on and so forth. So yeah, be strategic with your application process. And then last but not least, you just don't want it enough. I know this might sound harsh, but honestly, I get so many students and graduates tell me they want to go into investment banking, they want to go into asset management, they want to go into sales and trading, consulting, whatever it is. And then when I ask them, oh, why do you want to go into those areas? Why do you want to go into this industry? They literally look at me clueless. They don't have an answer. And so that naturally tells me you don't know what you're talking about. You're not serious. If you really wanted to go into this industry, you'd know a bit. I don't expect you to be an expert, but you would know 1 or 2 things about the industry or why you want to build a career in that specific domain. And so you need to know your stuff if you want to pursue a career in these industries. Honestly, I won't be surprised if it's the #1 reason why people get rejected at interviews. You don't need to show like a passion for the area that you're applying to, but just a high level understanding of what the work entails is important, because it shows that you've done your research and you know what you're getting yourself into. If you want to go into banking just for the money, you're not going to last. That's the truth. You can make money at any basic level or average paying job, but with high paying, highly skilled jobs like banking, doctors, lawyers, engineers, so on and so forth, sooner or later you'll get found out and it just won't work. You're either not going to be good enough because you're not interested in the work, or you're just going to be bored. You're not going to be wanting to do the work. And that's okay. There's no right or wrong answer, right? A career is a journey that you kind of figure out as you go along. But my advice to you would be, don't just go into banking or focus on getting into banking because you think it pays really well. Ideally, and look, there's lots of different areas within banking. Ideally, you want to find a job that pays well, but something that also you thrive in and that you can perform well in, and that suits the personality traits and characteristics that you have as an individual. If you made it this far, check out some of these videos and tune in this weekend for an industry episode 6 reaction video. Peace.